episode number 16. The summer is done. Your holiday weekend is come and gone, but don't worry. I'm here to welcome you back into the work week. This is the Expected Returns Podcast. My name is Stephen Lutman. I'm a real estate investor and agent in the capital region of New York State. This is a real estate focused conversation. However, we do also touch on financial markets, economic data, really anything that impacts the world of housing. Today's episode is absolutely jam-packed, so no time to dilly-dally. Last week, I did launch a pretty in-depth analysis of a 4-unit apartment building in the city of Albany. If you are someone that's considered exploring what being a real estate investor looks like, I would highly encourage you to check this out. We do a deep dive into, obviously, the property itself, but we do review the city and the neighborhood where the property is located. We do go over some recent sales and also explore the current rental market where the property is located, and finally wrap up with crunching some numbers on a financial analysis. So again, if you're kicking the tires on maybe becoming a real estate investor, what does it look like? Would highly encourage you to check this out. So if you're someone that's listening to this program via podcast, you can head over to sjlincoln.com/video, and it's going to be the very top one. It's going to be Albany multifamily apartment analysis. If you happen to be watching me right now on YouTube, it's going to be the video that immediately predates today's episode. So again, if you want to head over to my website, that's sjlincoln.com/video, and it's going to be numero uno right at the top. Or if you find yourself already on YouTube watching me right now, great news, easy breezy. It's going to be the video that immediately predates this one when it comes to content produced by SJ Lincoln Realty. Check it out. Let me know. But again, I think if you're interested in exploring the world of real estate, it's going to be a good video to check out. That's it. No more. Let's get into today's episode. Where I want to start today is by talking about the relationship that exists between companies and employees. Now, at an earlier point in my career, I spent some time at a small local bank that very much prided itself on being a tight-knit community. To the point, I'm talking day one of HR interviews. They're pushing, hey, listen, this is the type of place people spend decades, if not entire careers working. We're very much, wait for it, a family. You work with folks, you build bonds, you establish relationships. One person I became especially close to, we'll call him Bob, unfortunately developed a substance abuse problem to the point where it was clearly impacting the quality of his work. Now, thankfully, being a family environment, this behavior was flagged pretty early on by management. They were able to introduce the type of help Bob needed, and ultimately was not only able to help him get back on his feet, but went on to thrive within the company. Which isn't what happened. What actually happened was Bob was fired. Now, the story is very much not a one-off. Someone very close to me just this past month who religiously posted on social media about what a great company culture they were a part of, how much they loved what they did. You guessed it, company downsizing comes through, and they're let go. Different backstories between the two stories, but the overall theme is very much the same. Now, this is not a hit piece against big business. Oh, companies suck. Well, 1.5 million people were fired last month. 4 million people quit. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's very much a two-way street. The reason I bring this up today is because I think it's way past due we change the dynamic of how we review the relationship between business and its employees. There's a wonderful piece out there from 2014 that's still extremely relevant today from the Harvard Business Review titled, "Your Company is Not a Family." And within the piece, they have conversations with a few CEOs, one of which being Reed Hastings from Netflix, who views it not as a friendship, not as a family, but as a sports team, which is the perfect analogy. Athletes can sign with whatever team they believe offers the best opportunity, and teams are free to bring in whatever players they believe provide the best chance of winning. As consumers of sports, if your favorite sports team had a chance to bring in an MVP level star, would you not overwhelmingly cheer for that, even though you know someone towards the end of the bench is about to lose their job, is going to have to find somewhere else to play. Of course you would. We'll wrap this segment with a few thoughts on what to do. Now listen, if you find yourself in a position where you are employed, line up your references now. You don't want to have to chase them down on the back end, especially when you need them. Reconnect with past coworkers, have a conversation with current coworkers. Say, hey, listen, just in case something were to ever come up, would you feel comfortable with me using you as a reference? Again, you want to do this on the front end because trying to chase these folks down after you actually need them could be a big headache. Now, if you do find yourself in a position where you are let go, first thing is, and I can't stress this enough, do not be embarrassed. JobSite, Zippia had us at a poll where roughly 40% of those that responded claimed that at some point they had been let go through their working career. So you're not alone. Do not be embarrassed that this happened to you. Second step is, and you want to do this quickly because it does take a little bit of time to process, but you want to apply for unemployment insurance. We pay into this our entire working careers. Go take advantage of it. And I don't mean take advantage, but use it. It's there. Again, we pay a lot of money in taxes, so go file for that. It does take some time for that claim to go through. Consider connecting with a job recruiter or a headhunter. Now, depending on where you live, this might be more prevalent than others. I know in bigger cities, they're widely used. I think locally here in the capital region, I don't know a ton of people that use them, but I know they're out there. I think there are some folks that do some great jobs. So because you listen to this podcast, you know that we always keep our resumes up to date. Fire it off to them. Say, hey, listen, looking for some work. They'll probably get back to you pretty quickly because that's how they get paid, matching companies with possible employees. So consider doing that. And lastly, get active, especially on LinkedIn. Post about job-related things you've accomplished recently, projects you were proud to be a part of, things you've learned recently. I very much hate you'll look back on this one day and be happy it happened, because I think it's incredibly insensitive to the fear that you're going through right now. Positive memories in the future don't pay the bills of today. What I will say is if you find yourself in this situation, I'm excited to see what you do next, because it's probably going to be pretty great. Next up, student loan forgiveness and housing prices crash. But first, a quick word from today's show sponsor. Lincoln Realty, helping home buyers and sellers throughout the capital region. I've been a real estate investor for the better part of a decade and operate the office here as the licensed broker. If you or somebody that you know has a real estate related need, especially here in the capital region, let's connect. Stephen at sjlincoln.com. That's my email address, or sjlincoln.com/book-a-call is the website where you can schedule time for us to jump on a call or even a Zoom meeting. Again, that's Stephen at sjlincoln.com, sjlincoln.com/book-a-call. Let's get back to the show. If there's one thing we like on this show, it's someone that does what they say they're going to do. And in this case, that's good old Fed Chairman Powell, who way back in the first quarter told us that interest rates were too low. Since then, the yield on the 2-year Treasury has increased 500%. He then went on to say that asset prices were too high and clobbered our stock portfolios. The S&P 500 is down 18% this year. Next, he set his sights on housing, and he delivered once again. July saw the first decrease in median sales price. For years, national average went from 413,000 down to 403. Now, we've been seeing a decrease in the number of transactions that have occurred. This is the first time we've seen the actual price come down. Now, later this week, I'm expecting we're going to see data from GCAR. That's going to be local housing data here in the capital region. I'm super interested to see whether the decrease is on a national level or whether we're going to see that locally as well. Affordability is a massive concern. First-time home buyers are making up a decreasing portion of the buyer pool. And because interest rates have risen, folks are less inclined and less incentivized to downsize in housing. Instead, they're staying put. So what we have is we have a buyer pool not able to enter the ranks of homeownership. We have another group that's refusing to put their house on the market because it doesn't make economic sense for them to do so. This is a very stagnant housing market. It's very much the immovable object versus the unstoppable force. And at the end of the day, we're all losers here. We'll wrap up today with a conversation about student loan debt forgiveness, and I hope to do so in a way that's sensitive in manner because without a doubt, there are a portion of folks out there that having $10,000 worth of debt forgiven is going to have a meaningful impact on the quality of their life. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We can also acknowledge that society as a whole absorbing the cost for these degrees that they didn't obtain feels a bit icky, right? I think we can appreciate both sides of the equation here. Now, if you're someone that is pro student loan debt forgiveness, my question for you is going to be, are you prepared to cut a check today? Depending on who you trust, this is going to end up costing us somewhere between $300 billion and $1 trillion. Let's pick a number in the middle. We'll say $500 billion. And if there's 250 million American adults, are you prepared to cut a check today for $2,000? Because that's essentially your portion of this. And if the answer is no, then I think what you're actually saying is you're pro student loan debt forgiveness as long as someone else pays for it. And in this case, just like with almost all of the spending we do, it's going to be future generations. People that have nothing to do with the education system today are going to end up footing the bill for it. So we can have that conversation. How does it impact the world of housing? Because that's ultimately what we care about here on this show. And first and foremost, the question is, does it have an impact? And the answer is going to be maybe and yes. And first, we'll start with the yes portion. A lot of folks are under income-driven repayment plans, meaning the amount of your student loan payment, regardless of how much you borrowed, is dictated not on the loan size, but on your income. Now, currently, there is a non-discretionary threshold, meaning the government says, if you're living at the poverty line, we don't want you making loan payments. You can defer that until you're more established. Right now, that floor is $20,000-ish, meaning if you're making, let's say you're making $100,000, the first $20,000 of that income is shielded from repayment. So you're actually only being calculated on $80,000. And obviously, if you're making less than 20, you have no payment. That threshold amount is going to be increased under legislation that's being proposed. So it's going to go from 20-ish thousand up to 30. So that's a pretty big difference. So again, using our scenario, you would, if you're making $100,000, your student loan income repayment is going to be calculated using $70,000. The amount of discretionary income, so the amount of money you have available to spend, is going to be, for calculation purposes, is going to decrease from 10% down to 5%. So going back to our example, if you were being calculated previously on $80,000 worth of income at 10% attributed to student loans, that's going to be, rough math, $8,000 a year. Under the new plan, that essentially gets cut in half. So instead of paying 10% of your discretionary income, it's going to go down to 5%. So your yearly outlaw is going to be $4,000, a significant difference. So how does this impact the world of housing? Well, what we know is when we try to qualify for mortgages, really it all starts and stops with debt to income ratios. The banks review all the money you have going out every month, as well as the money coming in. And the more money you have coming in and the less money you're going out means the bigger of a loan you can qualify for. So under the changes to income-driven repayment plans, you're going to be able to qualify for more money, a higher dollar amount when it comes to purchasing a home. So that's the yes. Here's the maybe portion, and this is where the $10,000 number comes into play. It all depends on how they treat the $10,000. If they're going to just whack it off the bottom and say, let's say you owe $100,000, it suddenly becomes 90, right? That doesn't impact your monthly outlay. It strictly impacts the end of the loan, meaning you're going to be paid off sooner than you would without the student loan debt forgiveness. If they're going to re-amortize the loan, that's when it becomes important for qualifying for mortgages. We'll try to run this through together. So let's say you borrowed $100,000 and we'll say it's a 10-year repayment plan. You're halfway through your repayment plan. Maybe you have $60,000 left to repay, okay? If they re-amortize the amount, your $60,000, they're going to lop off the 10, so you're down to 50. And then they're going to re-amortize the remaining $50,000 over the 5 years you have left. That's going to lower your monthly payment. Again, if they strictly take it off the back, you're still going to be making the same dollar amount payment every month. You're just going to be done with it sooner. If they're going to re-amortize it, that's when you're going to see a change in your monthly obligation. Are they going to do this? I haven't seen yay or nay definitively one way or the other. Forbes had an article saying this was probably the direction they were leaning towards. I haven't seen anything concrete yet. Definitely keep your eyes peeled on that. But again, on the income-driven repayment aspect of it, certainly that's going to have an impact for folks that are under plans like that. And when it comes to the big headline, the $10,000 number, I guess stay tuned. Do your own research on that. Maybe it's been decided already. I just haven't seen it yet. But what we're looking for is, are they going to re-amortize the remaining dollar amount? And if they are, good news, you can now qualify for a higher mortgage. That's it. That's going to do it for today's show. As always, I don't just say this to say it. I say it because I mean it. I truly do hope that you got something out of this. I hope you found it fun. Maybe you learned a little bit of something. If you did and you want to let me know, Instagram is the best way to connect with me at sjlincolnrealty. Email steven@sjlincoln.com. Be sure to check out that video I mentioned in the opener. If you want that, that's sjlincoln.com/video. If you or someone that you know has a real estate related need in the capital region, let's connect. Steven@sjlincoln.com is my direct email address that goes right to me. Steven@sjlincoln.com. sjlincoln.com/book-a-call is the website. sjlincoln.com/book-a-call. Steven@sjlincoln.com. Thanks for watching. We'll talk again soon.